Hello and welcome to the Losers Win Again. I am your host, Jacob Brown, and we are here to talk about the fantasy football fallout to the Russell Wilson trade to the Denver Broncos. And I got a lot to say, so stay tuned. Before we get started though, if you hadn't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you like the content, we'll be pushing out content daily whenever free agency hits. This Wednesday. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. The Russell Wilson trade was official, or is going to be official starting the new league year. The Broncos received Russell Wilson and a 4th round pick. The Seattle Seahawks received Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, 2 1st round picks, 2 2nd round picks, and a 5th round pick. This is obviously a huge acquisition for the Denver Broncos, and it's just crazy how the league has turned into a copycat league. I discussed that into detail on the quarterback carousel video that I dropped the day Russell Wilson got traded, which didn't look very good on my end because I said Russell Wilson wasn't going anywhere, which I really believed at the time. I just still don't think it made any sense for the Seahawks to trade Russell Wilson. I would have way rather them had moved off of Pete Carroll and hired a new head coach than to have moved off from Russell Wilson. But I guess that just wasn't in the cards for Russell. He just wanted to leave Seattle, which he had that no trade clause, so he had every right to do so. And hopefully the Seahawks can make something of their draft picks and their acquisitions they got, like possibly trade for DeShaun Watson. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the fantasy fallout. But before we do, there was just something that skipbayless said, and I just couldn't believe it. Well, let's listen to what he had to say.
This is too steep. Yeah. It just doesn't matter, which is why your Denver Broncos just pulled off the steal of the century. This is flat-out highway robbery of Russell Wilson. I still can't believe it. I slept on it, and I thought I'll wake up, and it'll be just a bad dream that your Broncos are back in business. Right. They are way back in business because look at what just happened to the odds. They just vaulted, as we just pointed out, all the way up to the 5th best odds. They're all the way up. They went from 20 to 1 all the way up to 12 to 1 just because they got themselves a quarterback.
Yeah, that's right. He said steal of the century. I wouldn't go that far into saying this is a steal of a century, and I honestly wouldn't go as far to say that Russell Wilson to Denver is an automatic first place, especially in that division. I wouldn't go off and say that the Broncos are a lock to win the Super Bowl. Look, they just gave away a lot of their future. But at the same time, the picks really don't matter. F them picks. The Rams have just gone out and proved that you don't need draft picks to win if you're in win now mode. And the Broncos seem like they are in win now mode, but all I have to say is one, Jerryjeudy and Cortland Sutton are not DKmetcalf and Tyler Lockett. They both have been suffering from injuries, and who's to say they can keep healthy? Who would you rather have, DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, or Cortland Sutton and Jerryjeudy? I would take DK and TY all day long. Cortland Sutton just has a very bad injury history. Jerryjeudy did not play the whole year last year. Who's to say that all these guys are going to be on the field together when it's all said and done? But I will say this. There is some fantasy value here. So let's go ahead and dive right on into it. As everybody knows, Russell Wilson had an off year fantasy value-wise. He was the quarterback 16 in 2021. He was 11th in the league in passing touchdowns with 25. He threw for a little over 3,000 yards. He was 21st in the league in deep ball completion percentage at 36.4. He had air yards of 289 a game. That was 8th in the league. And he was 3rd in interceptable passes / games at 1.1, which was 3rd in the league. So not bad numbers, especially due to the fact they lost a lot of games last year. He didn't play in a lot of those games last year. So those stats are actually quite impressive for an off year for Russell Wilson. And I expect this to be way better next year. And let's go ahead and see who's going to benefit from this trade the most. Let's go ahead and look at the players that their fantasy stock is going up. First off, we'll start out with Russell Wilson, of course. I think he's going to be a completely different quarterback next year. I think he's going to put up some monstrous numbers. I think they will let Russ cook in Denver. He's motivated. He's inspired again to play football. It kind of looked like he quit on the team last year, except that last game in Detroit, which was pretty good. But I think he just kind of gave up on the situation he was at hand. But the offensive line there is pretty good. The defense is great. His offensive weapons are going to be decent. I mean, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Albert OK, and Javonte Williams, they're not bad players, but having Russell Wilson there makes them a lot better. Which brings me to my next player, Jerry Jeudy. He's going to have a huge breakout year. If he can stay healthy, he will be a top 20 to top 25 receiver, guaranteed. I would even go as far as saying possibly a top 15 receiver. And then you got Cortland Sutton. I picture Jerry Jeudy to play somewhat of the DK Metcalf role, and then I picture Cortland Sutton to be the Tyler Lockett role. I think these guys are going to have the same amount of targets as they would if, because look, Russell Wilson's going to throw the ball a lot, 30 to 40 times a game probably. And I think by the end of the year, you're going to see kind of like how you saw with the Seahawks, how DK Metcalf had 100-plus targets. Cortland Sutton's probably going to have 100-plus targets along with Jerry Jeudy. And then to move on to the tight end position, they traded their top tight end, Noah Fant. I think that they're going to go out and get someone in free agency, but I could be wrong, and they got a developing tight end and a guy I call Albert OK because I cannot pronounce his last name correctly. Number 85 for the Denver Broncos, plays tight end. I think he will be the starting tight end. As of right now, we don't know what else they're going to do, who else they're going to sign. So his stock is definitely going up. If you play in best ball drafts and you want to do a stacking approach for the Denver Broncos, Albert OK is a way to go. And then, of course, Javonte Williams' stock is going to go up. He's not much of a pass-catching back, but he can catch a little bit. And he's going to get a lot of more looks at rushing the football just because he's the only running back left starting caliber-wise on that roster. And like I said, free agency is still coming this Wednesday, so a lot can go on. But as of right now, these players' fantasy stocks are going up as we speak. And as I was saying, the Broncos are going to get a lot more targets than they usually do. We'll just go ahead and look at the top targeted players of last year. Now remember, Jerry Jeudy missed some games last year, along with Tim Patrick. So these are a little low for a Broncos team. But you notice, Javonte Williams, well, hold up. Let's go ahead and start with Cortland Sutton. 97 targets last year. I could definitely see that target range go up to like 115 to 120 targets a game, which in fantasy football, targets mean everything, which will be a very important thing to look at when you're looking at assessing this Broncos offense. Noah Fant had 82 targets last year, so for a guy like Albert OK, he had 40 targets. give him those 40 extra targets. He'll be sitting at about 80 targets a game. Tim Patrick, I don't think his role will change very much. I think he'll be in that 65 to 75 target range, which is still pretty good. And then you got Jerry Jeudy that had 52 targets last year. His target ratio is going to skyrocket. 52 was not enough. But when you got Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock throwing the football, you can't really rely on that. And he didn't play the whole year either. But 100-plus targets for him is definitely in his future. He could be a receiver 15, a receiver 10 in fantasy football. You got to keep an eye on Jerry Jeudy. Javonte Williams, look, 51 targets for a running back's not bad at all. I hope he becomes the workhorse of this team because he has a lot to offer this franchise. And like we said, Noah Fant, 82 targets, Albert Oke, 40. We could definitely see Albert Oke get at least 80 targets next year. I'm ready to see it. I can't wait to see it. But let's go ahead and look at the fantasy player stocks that are going down. Now we look at players' fantasy stocks that are going down. And to kick it off, Tyler Lockett, his stocks will go down if they have Drew Lock at quarterback. Look, like I said before, this is early in the offseason. We don't know who's going to be throwing the ball to Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, the newly acquired Noah Fant. But if it's Drew Lock, these player stocks are going down. Just like their win total went down with Russell Wilson gone. This is the changing of the franchise, and honestly, who's to say that Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf will both still be there by next season? It's sad to see because both of these guys are uber talented, but Tyler Lockett, his numbers are going to go down if Drew Lock's throwing him the ball. Same thing for DK Metcalf. They're going to be middling receivers. It's almost going to be like a role reversal. Like, you can see Cortland Sutton go above Tyler Lockett, and you can see Jerry Jeudy go above DK Metcalf in fantasy rankings. And as of right now, with Drew Lock as your quarterback, I can't see that not happening. And the Noah Fant, his stocks dropped. I guess you could say Drew Lock and Noah Fant have somewhat of a rapport together, but it's not going to matter. I think his stock drops. Not as bad as Tyler Lockett's and DK Metcalf's. But yeah, these three players, I'm not drafting in drafts until I know exactly who their quarterback is. But if it's Drew Lock, I'm sorry, I'm passing. Now we move on to the Seahawks and their target numbers from last year. I really think these are going to plummet. You can see DK Metcalf there at the top with 113 targets. I could definitely see him dropping to like 80 to 90 plus. Same thing with Tyler Lockett. He had 104 targets. I can see that dropping down. I believe Gerald Everett's a free agent. He might not sign back with the team, which is totally understandable, but 57 targets for a tight end, it's not very well. And keep in mind, too, that Russell Wilson was hurt, I believe, like 4 to 6 weeks last year. So these target numbers aren't as good as they usually are for a Seattle season with Russell Wilson at quarterback. But you can see what I'm saying here. With the poor quarterback play that they had from Geno Smith, these targets were pretty low for everybody else. And you could definitely see how the change of a quarterback is going to affect target ranges and fantasy outlooks for DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett mainly. So I will not be drafting either one of these guys when it becomes draft time. The move the Broncos must make next this offseason is to sign free agent Von Miller. Miller has teased to return to the Broncos on Instagram, saying if he should either wear number 58 or number 40. I think this is the most logical move for Denver to make. They just went out and got Russell Wilson. They're making a big push to win a Super Bowl, and what better way to have Von Miller back in the blue and orange. And now we move on to what the Seahawks' next move should be. Should they trade for DeShaun Watson? Look, they got multiple picks now, and I'm sure the Texans would love all those picks, package it with maybe a player or two, and I think you could get DeShaun Watson. The only problem is, does DeShaun Watson want to be in Seattle, which is something we got to look at, but as of right now, we don't know. So do they go free agency? Mitch Trubisky, he's been the free agent quarterback darling of the last couple weeks. Everyone's saying that Mitchell Trubisky will be signed. Could the Seahawks make a push at him if they don't think they can get Deshaun Watson? You also got Jameis Winston out there. Would Jameis Winston be a good fit for the Seahawks? And also Teddy Bridgewater. Look, I think Teddy would be a perfect fit for this team just until they can get the guy they want in there. He's a good bridge quarterback, no pun intended. And I think he would be good for this team. So what I would recommend the Seahawks do, if they can't get Deshaun Watson, go out and get Teddy Bridgewater. But we also can't rule out them drafting a quarterback. Now that they got no future to look at, because all they have is Geno Smith and Drew Lock, and we both know that's not going to last very long. Should they just go and draft a quarterback? Let me know what you think in the comments section. Should they get a free agent? Should they get Deshaun Watson? Should they draft a quarterback? Let me know what you guys think. Well, that's it, guys. What did you guys think? Should Russell Wilson be considered the trade of the century when he gets traded to the Denver Broncos? Is Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton set for a huge fantasy season? Let me know in the comment section. Also, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you want to see videos come out just like this one. And also, don't forget to subscribe to my socials. I got an Instagram, I got a TikTok, where I drop all kinds of fantasy content on there as well. And don't forget to subscribe to my Patreon. We will be updating our best ball rankings right after free agency and right after the draft as well. And we'll be coming out with all kinds of fantasy football topics on our Patreon account. But yeah, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Losers Win Again channel. Thanks.